Title: aitah for refusing to share my inheritance with siblings who are threatening to sue me for undue influence. When the lawyer called, I thought it was a mistake. He said my name in a tone that made my stomach twist, then told me to sit down. Your mother's will has been finalized, he said, and it names you as the primary heir. I remember gripping the edge of my kitchen counter, my coffee going cold beside me. Primary heir, I repeated. As in everything? He hesitated. Nearly everything, yes. For context, I 30 to F am the youngest of three. My sister Maggie 38 F and brother Tom 40 meters always had a closer bond with each other than with me. I was the oops baby, the one who arrived when my parents were already well into their 40s. Tired and emotionally distant. Growing up, I was invisible at best and a nuisance at worst. My dad died when I was 15, and after that, Mom and I developed something rare, a fragile, complicated closeness that never seemed to exist between her and my siblings. While Maggie and Tom were busy starting their adult lives, I was the one at home driving Mom to appointments, helping with bills, making dinner, staying up with her when she couldn't sleep. When she got sick, early onset dementia, I became her caretaker. I didn't do it for money. I did it because no one else did. Maggie would visit twice a year, arms full of flowers and smiles for Facebook photos. Tom would call occasionally, always saying, "You're doing great, kiddo. You're strong." But when the medical bills came, they went silent. I worked two jobs, burned out, and lost friends. There were nights I cried in the bathroom so Mom wouldn't hear me. Still, when she'd forget my name for a moment and then suddenly remember, "Oh, sweetheart, my Lily," it made everything worth it. Then, 2 months ago, she passed. Her will left everything, the house, her savings, and a modest investment portfolio, to me. Not equally among the children, just me. When the lawyer read that out loud, Maggie's mouth literally fell open. Tom's face turned bright red. "That's not right," Maggie said immediately. She would never do that. She loved all of us. "Clearly not enough to show up," the lawyer said under his breath, and I almost smiled, but stopped myself. Tom slammed his hand on the table. "You manipulated her. You always had her wrapped around your finger." My throat closed. "She was sick," I said softly. "I didn't exactly," Maggie snapped. "She was sick, and you took advantage." They stormed out, leaving me sitting there with trembling hands and a piece of paper that suddenly felt like a curse instead of a blessing. A week later, I got a letter from their lawyer. They were suing me. Claim undue influence on a mentally impaired parent. They wanted half of everything, claiming I'd manipulated Mom into rewriting her will in her final months. I hadn't. The truth? Mom had changed it 2 years before she got really bad. She did it after Tom borrowed $40,000 for a business investment that vanished, and after Maggie convinced her to co-sign on a car loan she never paid off. Mom told me one night, when she was still sharp enough to mean it, "You're the only one who stayed. Lily, you'll be the one who needs what little I have left. The others will just waste it." I begged her not to. I said, "Mom, they'll hate me for this." She smiled sadly. "They already do, sweetheart. So let them hate you for something that finally helped you." The lawsuit's been dragging on for weeks now. Their lawyer is ruthless, saying I isolated Mom, that I controlled her communication, that she was emotionally dependent on me. They've twisted every kindness into manipulation. They brought up texts I sent about Mom's memory loss. She forgot who I was again today. They're using that as proof she was too far gone to understand legal documents. I hired my own lawyer, but it's draining me. The money Mom left me is being eaten up by legal fees before I can even use it. Yesterday, Tom called me directly for the first time in months. "You can end this," he said. "Just split it 3 ways. You'll still come out fine. We're family, Lil." I said nothing. He sighed. "You really want to keep fighting? You'll lose everything, you know." Then Maggie's voice cut in from the background, sharp and cold. "She doesn't care. She never did. She wanted Mom all to herself, and now she wants her money, too." That night, I went through Mom's old letters, trying to find peace in her handwriting. I found one envelope with my name on it, dated 6 months before she died. Inside was a short note, "Lily, if they ever come for you, remember, you did nothing wrong. I changed my will because I wanted to, because you loved me when no one else did. Don't let them take that from you. Love, Mom." I sat on the floor crying, the kind of crying that doesn't make noise. Now I'm sitting here, trying to decide if I should just give up. Give them what they want and move on, or keep fighting for something that was mine by law, not greed. Part of me feels guilty. They're my siblings, after all. Maybe I should share. Maybe that's what a good daughter would do. But another part of me remembers the empty chair at every hospital visit, the unanswered calls, the weight I carried alone for years. So tell me, Reddit, aitah for refusing to share my inheritance, even if it means letting my own family drag me through court. Part E. The trial of blood. The first court hearing felt surreal. The courtroom smelled faintly of dust and disinfectant. My siblings sat at the opposite table. Tom in a too-tight suit, his jaw clenched. Maggie, lips pressed thin, her hair styled perfectly as if she were attending a fashion interview, not trying to dismantle what was left of our family. Their lawyer, a tall man with silver hair and a voice like a sermon, stood up first. Your Honor, my clients are simply seeking fairness, he began smoothly. Our late mother was a vulnerable woman suffering from dementia. The defendant, her youngest daughter, exploited that vulnerability for personal gain. He turned to me, eyes narrowing. We will prove that Miss Hall controlled her mother's access to communication, isolated her, and influenced her final will under duress. Every word felt like a dagger through my ribs. When my lawyer, Miss Patel, stood, her tone was steel wrapped in silk. We will show, she said, that Lily Hall was her mother's sole caregiver for 6 years, while her siblings contributed nothing but occasional visits and financial requests. This case isn't about influence. It's about guilt, greed, and the audacity to rewrite history. I stared down at my shaking hands, wishing I could disappear into the polished wood of the defense table. The first witness was the family doctor, Dr. Riley, an older woman with tired eyes who had known Mom for almost 2 decades. She testified that Mom's cognitive decline began gradually, but she remained lucid and competent until nearly the end. When she changed her will, Dr. Riley said she was perfectly capable of understanding her decisions. I spoke with her the same week. She was angry, deeply angry, at her other children for abandoning her. Maggie muttered something under her breath. Tom glared, but then their lawyer pulled out something I hadn't expected, a video. It was from about a year before Mom died. The date was stamped clearly in the corner. In the video, Mom was sitting in her living room, hair messy, eyes distant. Maggie was recording, asking gentle, leading questions. Mom, do you remember changing your will? Mom blinked. My will? What for? You said you were leaving everything to Lily. Do you remember why? Mom frowned. Lily's my baby, but I don't remember that. Maggie's lawyer paused the video dramatically. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, this is what undue influence looks like. A confused, disoriented woman who no longer understands her own decisions. I felt cold all over. My lawyer leaned toward me and whispered, don't panic. We can contextualize this. But my siblings were smiling. Maggie had tears in her eyes. Fake, rehearsed ones, and Tom gave me that smug, half-smile I'd seen all my life. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in Mom's old bedroom, surrounded by the faint scent of lavender and medicine. I opened her dresser drawers, hoping to feel close to her, and that's when I found something that changed everything. A sealed envelope addressed to my attorney, Mr. Greaves. Inside was a letter, a draft of her will, handwritten, dated almost 2 years before the official one. It included the same division, everything to me, except for a note in the margin. If Lily refuses, my second choice is to donate my assets to the Alzheimer's Foundation. My other children are not to benefit from my estate. My breath hitched. She knew. She anticipated this fight. But the last line froze my blood. I know what they did to their father. I cannot forgive them for that. I took the letter to Ms. Patel the next morning. Her eyes widened. This could change everything. It shows intent, a clear pattern, long before her condition worsened. But what does that last line mean? I asked. She frowned. I don't know, but maybe it's time to find out. So I did. I dug into my father's old files, bank statements, anything that could explain what Mom meant. And then I found it. An old insurance payout report. My father had a life insurance policy worth $150,000. It was supposed to go to Mom after his death. Except it didn't. It went to Tom, and not long after, that business investment had begged money for. It was funded by that payout. Maggie had co-signed the transaction. They'd lied to Mom, told her the insurance hadn't gone through, and used the money for themselves. Until it failed. I brought it to Ms. Patel, who looked almost stunned. If this is real, it's proof of motive and of their deception. We can submit this as evidence. At the next hearing, the courtroom atmosphere was electric. Ms. Patel stood, her voice sharp and deliberate. Your Honor, we have discovered new evidence suggesting the plaintiffs misappropriated funds intended for their mother. Not only does this establish a pattern of deceit, but it also corroborates the mother's stated reason for changing her will. She handed over the insurance documents. Tom's face drained of color. Maggie went rigid. Their lawyer immediately asked for a recess, but the judge, a stern woman with the patience of stone, said quietly, denying. Proceed, Ms. Patel leaned in, pressing the advantage. My client's mother made her decision with full awareness of her children's actions. She wasn't manipulated. She was heartbroken. The silence that followed was deafening. The trial lasted another month. By the end, my siblings' claims had fallen apart. The evidence of the insurance theft destroyed their credibility. When the verdict came, the judge ruled in my favor. The court finds no evidence of undue influence. The will stands as written. It should have felt like victory, but instead I felt hollow. Maggie and Tom didn't even look at me as they left the courtroom. Tom muttered, "You'll regret this," under his breath. Maggie didn't speak at all. She just stared, eyes full of something between hate and grief. I thought it was over, but a week later I came home to find my mailbox overflowing with envelopes. Most were from strangers, internet users, gossip blogs, even local reporters who had found the court records. Apparently, Maggie had gone online and posted her version of the story, painting me as the manipulative, greedy daughter who took advantage of a dying woman. Her post went viral. Now I was getting messages calling me heartless, a gold digger, a sociopath. Even my job became uncomfortable, co-workers whispering, clients pulling back. One night, as I sat scrolling through hateful messages, a notification popped up, new email from Anonymous. It read, "You don't know the full story. Your mother wasn't as innocent as you think. Meet me where she used to take you as a child, the old rose garden." Midnight. I froze. My first instinct was to delete it. But something, curiosity, maybe grief, made me go. The night was cold and silent. The garden was overgrown, wild, forgotten. And sitting on the old stone bench was a woman I didn't recognize, late 60s, kind eyes. Familiar in a strange way. "You must be Lily," she said softly. "Your mother and I worked together. I took care of her during the first stage of her illness." I blinked. "Who are you?" "My name's Nora. I was your father's nurse before he died." Then she said the words that broke the ground under me. "Your mother didn't just change her will out of love, Lily. She did it out of guilt." I stared at her. Guilt? Yes. She believed she caused your father's death. Apparently, years ago, my father's heart medication had run out. My mom refused to refill it immediately. Said he was abusing it, taking too much. He died of a heart attack 3 days later. She never told anyone. That's why she let Tom take the insurance money at first. She thought she owed him. The pieces started fitting together in a way that made my stomach twist. But then Nora said, when your siblings took advantage of her, she snapped. She wanted to make it right, to give everything to you, the one person she hadn't failed. I didn't know whether to cry or scream. My mother had loved me, but her love was also wrapped in guilt, buried under secrets I was never meant to find. A week later, I sat in the quiet house she'd left me, surrounded by silence and ghosts. The court had cleared my name, but my family was gone, and my mother's truth had become something both tender and tragic. I donated a third of the inheritance to the Alzheimer's Foundation, just as she'd written in that draft, not because my siblings deserved less, but because it felt like the only way to make peace with her final messy love. Sometimes I still wonder, if she could see how it all ended, would she think it was worth it? And maybe, in some strange way, she would. Because even in her absence, she forced us all to face who we truly were. And that, I guess, was her last lesson. Part E. The price of blood. 6 months passed since the verdict. By then, the noise had quieted, the gossip faded, the reporters moved on, and even Maggie's viral post had disappeared into the endless churn of internet outrage. But peace didn't feel peaceful. It felt empty. The house, Mom's house, had grown too big, too quiet. Every creak of the floorboards made me flinch. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and swear I could hear her humming from the kitchen. I tried to keep busy, volunteering at the Alzheimer's Foundation, donating part of the estate like I'd promised. But there was still a constant hum of unease beneath it all. Until one morning, a knock came at my door. When I opened it, Tom was standing there. He looked older, thinner. His usually perfect hair was a mess, and there were dark circles under his eyes. "Can we talk?" he said. My first instinct was to slam the door, but something in his tone stopped me. It wasn't anger this time. It was desperation. So I stepped aside and let him in. He sat on the couch like he didn't recognize the place anymore. "This house feels smaller," he muttered. I didn't respond. After a moment, he said quietly, "Maggie's in rehab." That caught me off guard. "What?" He nodded. "After the court stuff, she lost it. Started drinking again. Then painkillers. It got bad." I didn't know what to say. Maggie had always been the strong one. Cruel sometimes, yes, but composed, polished, unbreakable. Now she sounded like a ghost. "I'm sorry," I said finally. Tom gave a hollow laugh. "You're the last person who should be sorry." He rubbed his face, then looked up at me. "But there's something else. Something you need to see." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an old, worn-out notebook. Mom's handwriting covered the cover, private, not to be read until after my death. My stomach twisted. "Where did you get this?" He hesitated. "It was in one of Maggie's boxes. One didn't know it existed until last week." He slid it across the coffee table. "Lily, you should read it." It took me 2 hours to get through it. At first, it was just a diary. Notes about her pain, the decline of her memory, fears about losing herself. But then the entries changed. She started writing about the truth, about Dad, about me. The final pages were shaky, her writing jagged and uneven. "Lily is not his daughter." I wanted to tell her 100 times, but she looks at me with those eyes. His eyes. And I can't. She deserves to know. But if I tell her, she'll hate me. Maybe it's better if she never finds out. I stopped reading. My breath came in sharp, uneven gasps. Tom was sitting across from me, watching carefully. "You knew?" I whispered. He shook his head. "Not until I read it." But I asked around. Found some of Dad's old friends, people from the factory. One of them told me Mom had an affair with a man named Daniel Cross. I pressed a hand to my chest, trying to breathe. "You're lying." He looked at me sadly. "I wish I was." The room spun. It all made sense. The guilt, the favoritism, the reason she left me everything. It wasn't just love or pity. It was atonement. She had spent her whole life trying to make up for a secret she could never bring herself to confess. I was the product of her betrayal. Tom's voice broke through my thoughts. "I was furious when I first found out. But then I realized maybe that's why she changed her will. Maybe she thought she was protecting you. From us, from the truth." I couldn't speak. He stood, hesitating at the door. "For what it's worth, Lily, you were the best thing Mom ever did, even if she lied to all of us." Then he left. That night, I sat alone in the dark, reading the diary over and over until my eyes burned. Every line felt like a confession, every word soaked in regret. Daniel wanted to tell her. I said no. I couldn't bear to see that look in her eyes. She thinks her father adored her. He did. He didn't know the truth. If love is a sin, then mine has cursed my children. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to hate him. But all I could feel was a deep, aching sorrow for her, for Dad, for the years built on a lie. Over the next week, I tried to go on with life. But everywhere I went, I saw ghosts. At the grocery store, a man with Daniel's last name worked behind the counter. I froze every time I saw him, wondering if he knew. If maybe he was family. At the park where Mom used to take me as a child, I sat on the same bench she used to cry on after fights with Dad. I wondered if that's when it started, when loneliness turned into something else. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I found Daniel Cross. He was still alive, 73, living 2 towns over. His name came up in the property registry easily. I drove there the next morning, shaking the entire way. When he opened the door, his face froze. He didn't ask who I was. He didn't have to. His eyes widened, and for a second I saw something flicker there, recognition, disbelief, and guilt all at once. "You look just like her," he whispered. I swallowed hard. "You knew?" He nodded slowly. "I knew." My voice trembled. "Did my mother ever tell you she regretted it?" He looked away. "Every day." We sat on his porch for almost an hour. He told me how they met, how Mom came to work at the factory part-time after Dad got injured, how they talked for months before anything happened, how he fell in love with her even though she told him she'd never leave her husband. When she got pregnant, he said she begged me to stay away, said she wanted to protect you. I respected that, but I never stopped wondering. He reached into his pocket and handed me a small, faded photograph. It was of Mom, younger, smiling, holding a newborn, me. On the back, written in his handwriting, for when she finds out. When I got home, I sat on the porch until the sun set. Everything I thought I knew about my family had crumbled, and yet, for the first time, I felt free. I wasn't the reason Mom favored me. I wasn't the cause of her guilt. I was simply the truth she couldn't live with, and somehow that truth felt lighter than the lie. Weeks later, Maggie called me from rehab. Her voice was shaky, tired. "Tom told me," she said, "about the diary." I braced myself. "I hated you for so long, Lily," she continued. "But now I realize we were all living in the same cage. Mom just built it for different reasons." I didn't know what to say. She laughed softly. "I think I want to come home when I get out. Maybe we can start over." For the first time in a long time, I smiled. "Yeah," I said quietly, "maybe we can." Now, when I visit Mom's grave, I don't bring flowers. I bring one of her old journals, and I read aloud to her. Sometimes I tell her about the charity in her name or the garden I'm restoring in the backyard. Sometimes I just sit there letting the wind carry away the silence between us. Because despite everything, the lies, the pain, the betrayal, she loved me in her own broken way. And that, I've learned, is the kind of love that never really dies.